Excuse me, sir. Can you please help me?" I nearly jumped out of my skin, my nose practically buried in a dusty tome about the Peloponnesian War. One moment, I was living my best Saturday, enjoying a perfect day off, a movie matinee, a surprisingly good burger, and now, the serene quiet of a sprawling bookstore. My mission: lose myself in the annals of ancient history. The next, a frantic, almost desperate voice was right next to my ear, yanking me back to reality. I turned to see a woman, maybe in her late 40s, clutching a crumpled receipt like it was a winning lottery ticket or a death threat. Her eyes, wide and darting, were already brimming. She looked like she was one misplaced book away from a full-blown meltdown. Yeah. I managed, probably sounding more bewildered than helpful. I didn't work here, obviously. I was meticulously and compulsively, I'll admit, reshelving a few rogue books that some heathen had dumped in the wrong section, a bad habit I picked up from years of part-time retail gigs. That's probably what gave her the wrong idea. She didn't even seem to register my initial, mumbled, "I don't actually work here, ma'am." Or maybe she was just too stressed to care. She steamrolled right over it. "My daughter's birthday is tonight. She needs this game. Betrayal at the House on the Hill. Do you know it? Have you seen it?" Her voice was tight with urgency, cracking on the last word. I'd never heard of it. Not a clue. But seeing her like that, teetering on the edge of tears, something in me just switched. My carefully curated day-off vibe evaporated, replaced by an almost pathological need to help. Okay, deep breaths, I said, trying to project a calmness I didn't quite feel. "Betrayal at the House on the Hill, you said. Any idea who publishes it? Or anything else?" She wrung her hands. "Just a board game, a horror board game, I think. For her sweet 16? It's the only thing she asked for. I've been to 3 stores already." The last part came out in a rush, a clear sign of her dwindling hope. All right, game on. Even though it wasn't my job, it felt like it suddenly was. I started with the obvious, the general board game section. Nothing. Just your usual suspects, Monopoly and Scrabble, looking terribly mundane. My gut told me a horror board game wouldn't be chilling with those guys. Then I tried the employees. First guy at the info desk gave me a blank stare. "Board game? Maybe over there?" He gestured vaguely. Next person, bustling past with a stack of new releases, just shrugged. "Never heard of it. Sorry." My initial helpful enthusiasm was starting to ebb. This was getting tougher than finding a lost continent. I could feel a familiar frustration bubbling up, the kind you get when you're trying to do something good and the universe just keeps throwing wrenches. The woman, meanwhile, was still pacing near the entrance, looking increasingly desperate. My internal monologue was shouting, "Dude, it's your day off. Just go back to history." But then I looked at her again, and that little voice was drowned out by another saying, "You can't just leave her like this." I was dragging my feet, heading back towards my beloved history section, ready to gently deliver the bad news when something caught my eye. A small, almost hidden shelf tucked away behind a towering display of fancy, overpriced fountain pens. It looked like an afterthought, a forgotten corner of the store, and there it was, just sitting there, almost casually. Betrayal at the House on the Hill. Holy smokes! It was like finding the Holy Grail, but for a really specific, slightly goth teenager, I didn't shout Eureka, like some Victorian scientist, but I definitely let out an audible gasp, probably scaring a nearby senior citizen browsing the gardening books. I practically sprinted back to the woman, clutching the box like it was solid gold. "Is this it?" I asked, probably a little too loud, definitely a little out of breath. Her eyes, wide and glassy, fixed on the box, then on me. A single tear rolled down her cheek, then another. "Oh my God," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You found it. You actually found it." And then, before I knew what was happening, she threw her arms around me. A full-on stranger in a bookstore hug. It was awkward and sweet and utterly genuine. She must have finally processed my earlier, mumbled "I don't work here" comment, because she pulled back, still sniffling, a fresh wave of realization washing over her face. I can't believe you did that. You don't even work here." "I need to tell your manager, get you a bonus. Something." I laughed, feeling my face warm. No, really, it's okay. Just glad I could help." She insisted, wanting to drag a manager over, but I waved her off. Seriously, it was just dumb luck. Go make your daughter's birthday. She nodded, still wiping her eyes, a huge, wobbly smile breaking through. She headed to the checkout, clutching that game like it was the most precious thing in the world. Walking out of there, back into the afternoon sun, I gotta say, the feeling was even better than the movie I'd watched earlier. Sometimes, being mistaken for an employee isn't so bad, especially when you get to be a low-key hero for a day.
Still watching? Dang, you must love internet drama. Smash subscribe. It's cheaper than therapy.
The first thing I heard was a shriek. Not a playful camp shriek, but a full-throttle "I'm entitled and you're ruining my day" kind of sound. I was crouched by the lake, helping an elderly fella named Hank secure his newly unloaded canoe. The sun was perfect, the air smelled like pine and possibility, and I was wearing my usual campsite uniform, a comfy green button-up and trusty cargo shorts. All in all, a pretty idyllic morning, right up until the banshee cry. "Hey, can you move your car? Now?" I straightened up, shielding my eyes against the glare. About 30 yards away, near the small, unpaved parking area, stood a woman. Bathing suit, messy bun, face already blotchy with rage. She was pointing, finger practically vibrating, straight at my little sedan. Excuse me, ma'am," I began, already feeling that familiar Reddit story tingle. "I'm sorry, but I don't actually work here. I'm just a camper, same as you." She just stared, her mouth agape for a second, then snapped it shut. It was like the sound waves of my explanation had simply bounced off her forehead. "I don't care who you are. You're blocking the whole damn parking lot. I need to get my spot." Her voice was ratcheting up, pulling in every stray ear within a 50-yard radius. I tried again, slower. "No, really, I'm just camping here. My car is parked way over there, out of everyone's way. I think you might be mistaken." "I am not mistaken," she bellowed, her eyes now wide, wild, and completely unseeing. "You're blocking my spot. I saw you in that green shirt earlier. You're obviously staff. Move your damn car or I'm calling the manager." At this point, Hank, the canoe owner, had slowly turned, his brow furrowed in confusion. A few other campers were starting to stop what they were doing. I could already see one guy pulling out his phone, probably to record the wild Karen in her natural habitat TikTok. My face was heating up, a blend of embarrassment and pure disbelief. This woman was so utterly convinced, so utterly gone, that reason was just a foreign concept. Just when I thought it couldn't get any more absurd, a human oak tree emerged from a nearby RV. Tall, heavily muscled, sporting a thick beard and sunglasses that completely obscured his eyes, he strode over, radiating bad vibes. The woman, let's call her Karen, immediately latched onto him. "Honey, this guy, he won't move his car. He's being so rude and he's blocking our spot," she wailed, suddenly playing the victim perfectly. The man, let's call him the Hulk, turned his glare on me. His voice was a low growl. "What's the problem here, buddy?" "There's no problem, sir," I tried, holding up my hands in a conciliatory gesture. "Your wife seems to think I work here, but I don't. I'm just a camper. My car isn't blocking anything. It's parked well away." The Hulk's jaw clenched. "Don't you lie to my wife? We saw you. You're an employee. You're being an absolute asshole right now. Disrespecting my wife, holding up our day." He moved closer, his shoulders practically brushing mine. He smelled faintly of cheap beer and simmering rage. My patience, which had been stretched thin, snapped. "Look, I've told you both I don't work here. I'm wearing a green shirt and cargo shorts because that's what I wear. It doesn't make me staff. Now, back off." "You owe my wife an apology," the Hulk thundered, leaning into my face. The vein in his neck was throbbing. I actually laughed then, a short, bitter bark. An apology? For what? Existing? Parking legally? Not being an employee? There's nothing I'm sorry for here, friend, except maybe for being polite to you two for so long. Karen gasped, looking at her husband like I'd just committed a felony. "Did you hear that, honey? He's being so disrespectful." The Hulk looked like he was about to burst a blood vessel. "You're the problem here, pal? You really think you can talk to my wife like that?" Suddenly, a new voice cut through the tension. "Well, I'll be..." Everyone turned. A lean, grizzled old man, leaning heavily on a gnarled cane, had slowly ambled over. He wore a faded hat, equally faded sunglasses, and looked like he'd seen about 1,000 sunrises and just as many entitled blowhards. He took in the scene, Karen red-faced, the Hulk menacing, me exasperated, and the growing crowd of rubberneckers. He slowly pulled down his sunglasses, revealing eyes that twinkled with ancient amusement. He looked from Karen to the Hulk, then back to me. Finally, he addressed the couple. "You know," he drawled, his voice surprisingly robust, "I've seen some mighty rude and pushy folks in my day. But you two, well, you really take the whole damn cake." Karen and the Hulk froze. Their mouths hung open. The color drained from Karen's face, replaced by a dawning mortification. The Hulk sputtered, trying to find words, but none came. The old man just smiled. A knowing, weary smile, put his sunglasses back on, and slowly turned to walk away. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the chirping of crickets that had wisely stayed out of the way. Karen and the Hulk, deflated, exchanged a glance. The audience around us, phones still out, was practically vibrating with secondhand embarrassment. Without another word, they turned and shuffled away, back towards their RV, leaving a lingering scent of indignation in the air. I stood there for a moment, letting the adrenaline fade, feeling a weird mix of triumph and, well, pity. They were so consumed by their own perceived slights and entitlement, they couldn't even see the world or the people in it, clearly. It was a damn shame, really. But man, did it feel good to not apologize. TLDR. Camper in a green shirt gets mistaken for staff by a raging Karen and her Hulk husband who demand he move his car and apologize. An old-timer bystander shuts them down with one perfect line.
Honestly, I was just trying to get in and out. Randy's birthday was today and a special cake from the Fred Meyer Bakery. That was my absolute mission. No detours, no unexpected encounters. I swear my usual MO in a store is to put on my don't even look at me face, especially after all the ridiculous I don't work here lady incidents I've seen and lived. But then I saw him. A man, easily in his late 70s, maybe even 80, standing dead center in the main aisle, looking utterly, completely adrift. His hand was trembling as he clutched a crumpled shopping list, his eyes wide and watery, scanning the vast aisles like they were a foreign planet. Every fiber of my usual self-preserving power walk-past persona screamed to just keep moving, get that cake, and get out. But something in his desperate eyes, the way his lower lip quivered, it stopped me cold. He looked so lost. My gut just twisted. "Excuse me, sir," I found myself saying, my voice probably softer than I intended. "Are you okay? Do you need some help?" His head snapped toward me, and those watery eyes welled up even more. I'm sorry," he mumbled, his voice a fragile tremor. I can't find anything. I don't know where to go." He looked completely defeated. My plan for a quick in-and-out trip evaporated. This wasn't just a simple query, this was real distress. "It's all right," I said, stepping a little closer. "What are you looking for? Maybe I can help you find it." He nodded, a tear finally escaping and tracing a path down his wrinkled cheek. "Flannel pajamas," he whispered, looking down at his list, and flashlight bulbs, for my old one. Easy enough, I thought. I knew exactly where those were. I gestured toward the men's section. "Come on, let's get you some cozy flannels." As we walked, I kept an eye on him, a steadying presence. He picked out a blue plaid pair, almost absently, and I put them in his nearly empty cart. "Next, the flashlight bulbs. Do you know what kind you need?" I asked gently, scanning the bewildering array. He just shook his head, looking overwhelmed again. I picked up a common size, then saw a newer, brighter LED model. "You know, these new LED ones are fantastic," I suggested. "They last forever and are super bright. Might be worth considering." He just nodded, trusting me, so I grabbed one for him. We were making our way to the checkout, the small victory of finding his items settling in, when he just stopped. Right there, in the middle of produce, his shoulders started to shake. I turned, and his face was a mess of fresh tears, more profound this time, an uncontrolled torrent that seemed to come from a much deeper place than just being lost. It's just so much," he choked out, his voice a ragged whisper. He ran a trembling hand over his face. "My Martha, she always did this. everything. And now I can barely see the labels. I don't know how to do any of it. My heart just lurched. Martha, his wife. Oh man, this wasn't about shopping, it was about grief, about a world turned upside down. Without even thinking, I reached out and took his gnarled hand. It was surprisingly warm and soft. "Oh, sir," I murmured, squeezing it gently. "It's okay, I'm here. We'll get through this, all right?" He just sobbed, clutching my hand back. "Thank you," he managed, the words barely audible. "Thank you so much." I swear, I braced myself for it. I was practically acting like an employee, guiding him, helping him pick things out, holding his hand. Any minute now, some entitled Karen was gonna pop up, demanding I go check the back or find a manager. But instead, Marge, one of the bakery staff I vaguely recognized, walked over. She didn't look annoyed. She looked genuinely touched. "Wow, Amanda," she said softly, her eyes on the old man and then me. "That was really something what you just did. We don't see people doing that much anymore." I felt a blush creep up my neck. I just offered a small, awkward smile. "He just needed a little help," I said, almost defensively. Marge just nodded, a knowing look in her eyes before heading back to her counter. A couple of other employees nearby gave me small, approving nods too. It felt strange. Good, but strange. We finally made it to the checkout. I helped him unload his items, making sure they scanned correctly, then helped him bag them. He fumbled with his wallet, and I patiently waited, ready to assist if he needed it. Once everything was paid for, I didn't hesitate. I walked him all the way to his car in the parking lot, helping him load his small bag of purchases. As I was about to say goodbye, he turned to me, his eyes still red-rimmed but with a fragile smile, and then he just reached out and hugged me. It was a surprising, gentle but firm hug, a quiet embrace from a man who had clearly just lost so much. I froze for a second, then instinctively hugged him back, patting his frail shoulder. "You're going to be okay?" I whispered. He pulled back, still holding my gaze. "You're an angel," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "A real angel. Thank you, Amanda." I just nodded, my own throat tightening. "You're very welcome, sir. Take care." Walking back to my car, clutching Randy's birthday cake box, I felt something profound. It wasn't the usual indignant satisfaction of a perfectly executed "I don't work here" clapback. It was a deep, quiet sense of fulfillment. In a world full of people rushing, eyes glued to phones, trying to avoid any kind of contact, I had stopped, and by stopping, I'd helped a genuinely suffering soul. It's easy to get caught up in our own lives, our own missions, our own complaints, and believe me, I'm usually the first one to dodge eye contact in a store. But sometimes, just sometimes, you meet someone who truly needs you to break character. You don't know the impact a simple, unplanned act of kindness can have until you just do it. It changed his day, I hope. It certainly changed mine. So yeah, not a typical "I don't work here" lady story from me today. But sometimes, the best stories aren't about conflict with Karens, but about connection with humanity. And that's a story I'm always happy to share. Thanks for listening, folks. I'll catch you next time on r/I don't work here lady.
This next video hits the same vibe. Check it out.